Everybody, it's your boy Joe, the Wealth Architect, coming at you live and direct, New York. And I want to talk about fear, right? Fear of investing. I talked to some of my friends, talked to family members, and some will say outright that they may not use the word fear, but they will talk about how they are anxious, right? Anxious when it comes to investing. So they never invest, right? I think it's too risky. And what I always emphasize is that the real risk is not investing, right? That is the real risk, right? To do nothing. And in the short term, a person may not feel it, meaning that they or you may, just go on with your life and let the future worry about itself, as they say, right? But the truth is that the future, whether it's tomorrow, next month, or whatever the case might be, the future will be here, right? The future will be here. And it is critical that you start thinking about the future and not about now, right? When it comes to investing, it is not just about the present, right? We need to stay in the present, but it is not just about the present. When it comes to investing, it is about the future life that you want to have for yourself, whatever that may look like in terms of lifestyle. Whether it's traveling, like I like to travel costs money, so my money needs to make money, right? And I'll get to that in a second, because that's the real key here, is that we don't want to go all of our lives trading our time for money, right? Meaning working a job or even working a business, right? Right now, to be honest, I'm hustling, meaning in terms of the business. You got to have that hustle mentality. My goal, though, is to keep the hustle mentality, but bring on other people to help, right? But anyway, I don't want to digress. The key is to remember that there's an acronym for fear, and it's false evidence appearing real. So things that are not true, false evidence, but seem to be true, right? Appearing real. And that is so applicable when it comes to investing or not investing, is that some of us, our fear is just not substantiated, meaning that you're not guaranteed. Let me say this. When it comes to investing, obviously there's risk, right? So you're not guaranteed to make money. But if you don't invest and you only spend money, then you're guaranteed to not make money, right? So at the end of the day, you either save, right? Because we do one of three things. We spend, save, and or invest. That's what my SSI method is about. It's about how we think about all of this, how we relate to money, and how we allocate our money and put our money to work so that it serves us, so that it's working for us. That's what this is all about. And so, at the end of the day, if all you mostly do is spend, right, with very little savings and little to no investing, then you're guaranteed to run out of money at some point, right? You're guaranteed to have to continue to work for money into your old age. And for those of us who have done 15, 20, 25 or more years in prison, you don't want to have to be in your 70s working for anything, In other words, if you want to work, you want to do it because you want to work, right? Not because you have to, right? And And so that is really critical here. And so, again, my main point is this. Fear is false evidence appearing real. And in this case, when it comes to investing, what appears real is that you will lose money with investing. But the thing is, if you haven't invested, you haven't lost anything, right? Because you haven't even gotten in the game, right? You need to get in the game. Just the other day, and I'm not where I want to be, I'll just say that. But just this past Friday, my investments in one of my accounts brought in $1,500 in one day, on Friday, right? Stock market opens at 9:30, closes at 4. I don't check every day, but I said, let me check. I'm curious, right? And it went up, my money earned $1,500, about $1,450 to be exact, right? About $1,450, but $1,500. We'll see where it goes today. I haven't been looking, and like I said, I don't look every day. I'm not trying to be stressed out about it. The whole objective is what I do is I look for trends, right? Is it going upward or downward, right? On consecutive days, right? That's what I look at, right? If most of the days during the week, Monday through Friday, when the stock market is open, if I get 3, and I said because it is my money being invested, if I get 3 good days and 2 bad days, of course I can't, we can't control the market. But what I look for is trends where at the end of the week, it's a net positive, right? That's what it boils down to. Am I up more than I was the previous week? That's what I look for. That's the name of the game. Is my money working for me, right? That's what this is about. So my point is, if I was fearful and I didn't put any money into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, those type of things, if I didn't put any money in investments, then I would earn nothing. Zero. Zilch, as they say, right? And if I were to put it in the bank, the amount of money that is in this particular account, I probably would have earned, in a day, I probably would have earned, I don't know, $5, if that, like seriously, right? Because banks give up so little. But because I put my money to work in companies like NVIDIA, Google, Netflix, Apple, right? Because I put it in companies like that and other funds, my money went up $1,500 in one day, right? Some people, let's just keep it real, it's not a flex. Some people work all week or 2 weeks, right, to collect a check, a take-home check, right? Not the size of the check, including what the government is getting, right? Because all that money is not yours. It's not mine. The government is getting theirs, right? But if you bring it home $1,500, let's say every other week, right? So you got to work 10. Let's say you work full time. Let's do the math, right? And then we get back to fear. If you work full time, let's say 35, 40 hours a week, right? You get your lunch break, right? And you get paid every 2 weeks. So you work 10 days, let's say, right? 10 days, 35, 40 hours, and you do it 2 weeks. 2 weeks of that. So 80 hours, let's do the math. 80 hours, right? And then then you get paid. There's a gross pay. If you have benefits, health care, all those other things, right? Important stuff. But the government gets their money first. Federal, state, and local, depending on where you're at, right? So on that amount, let's say you're in the 15% tax bracket. Whatever it is, the government is going to get their money. And let's say, for all intents and purposes, you bring home $1,500. So you work 10 days to make $1,500. And I worked on business stuff that I actually enjoy, stuff that is actually having a real impact in the world, stuff that will change not only my life, but other people's lives, right? Working on that type of stuff, taking breaks when I want, because I make my own hours. And my money made $1,500 in a day, in one day. Not 10 days. I didn't have to work an hour. I didn't have to work at all for it. Right? That's the difference in mindset, right? Fear is based on a scarcity mindset, right? So it's not the money, it's the mindset. I always say that. Fear is based on a scarcity mindset, that you won't have enough, that you will pick the wrong things, meaning the wrong investments, or that you'll pick the right ones, quote unquote, right? And then it'll go down and you'll lose money, or whatever the case might be, right? Fear is, I'm too old, right? I did 30 years in prison. Now I'm 50, I'm 60. I don't know how many years I have left. That's fear, right? That's fear. And it's disabling, right? It stops us from doing the things we know we need to do, because you know in your heart or in your mind that you should be investing. You might feel it's too late, and you may be promising yourself that you'll eventually do it, right? That you'll eventually get around to it, you'll invest. Maybe it's January, it's the new year. Whatever you tell yourself, I'm saying start today, right? Start today. Let's not wait till next year. We don't need a New Year's resolution, right? Because I just did the math, and that's just a small sampling, right? I did not work for $1,500, right, in one day. We're at real money. I didn't sell, but I could have. I could have said, and I'm not a day trader, but let's say I said, I made $1,500. Actually, I want to take this trip to Vegas. I could sell it, and the money will be deposited in my bank account. It's my money, right? The businesses are working for me. I'm not working for them. That's the difference. That's what I'm talking about, right? So that's the difference here. And all this stuff is connected, because you hear me talk about having an ownership mindset versus a consumer mindset. We want to be owners. For too long, we've been consumers. We want to be owners. Sorry about the light, right? Just walking along the park. But we want to be owners, right? And that means we can't be fearful. We can't be immobilized by fear that we will screw up, that we're too old, and it makes no sense. I'm trying to get out this light. Sorry about that. I really apologize. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. Let me go in here so we get some shade here, right? So you want to begin to step boldly, acknowledge the fear, step boldly into the fear, and say, even though I'm fearful, even though I know, as Joe is saying, and as I just know, that there's no guarantee, that there's risk, right, when it comes to investing. No doubt there's risk. But as I just laid out, let me put it to you this way. Let's say, and it can happen to anyone, let's just say you work, like I said, you bring home $1,500. If you're not investing, let's put it like this, what are you doing? That's another way to think about it. If you're not investing the money, what are you doing, right? It's only a few things, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we have choices, stuff like that, but you're either spending it all or most of it and saving a little, or spending it all, right? Or giving it away, whatever the case might be. The money is not working for you, right? We've been taught in this country and in this education system to work for money. And that may have worked, I don't know, I'm 55, may have worked in, 50 years ago or something like that, but it doesn't work these days, right? We need to learn how to make money, right? That's what the wealthy do, and that's what people who have a wealth mindset do. You don't have to be wealthy, but you have to have a wealth mindset, an ownership mindset. And that's what this channel is about, right? That's what this channel is all about. It's about having an ownership mindset, one that is based on creating value. That's what business is about, right? At the end of the day, business, whether it's yours or someone else, is about creating value, something that other people desire, whatever that may be. It could be water, pizza. If we simplify this, it just makes life so much easier. It makes the idea of investing so much more realistic, right? And doable, because it is doable. I'm saying it's doable because I invest, right? My money is working for me. As I'm talking to you now, my money is working for me. That's what I mean. Another example is, what happens if you have a health situation? You have a marriage, you have a divorce, you get laid off from a job. All these big things. Or you want to buy a house, let's say, right? Often we will think that we need to save up to buy a house. But just think about it. Prices for homes have just increasingly over the last 5 years since the pandemic have just skyrocketed. I mean, literally skyrocketed. So trying to save for a house, for example, that'll take a lifetime, right? What money does is it speeds up, the time it takes for you to have the life you want. That's another way to think about it, right? Because money, at the end of the day, is about lifestyle. Money gives you choices. The more money you have, it's not that it's everything, because it's not, right? Good health, right? Good relationships are way more important to me than money. But money is different. It is different in that it can enhance both your social relationships. You can travel more, meet interesting people from all over the world, right? Eat different types of food and just have great experiences, right? So it makes your time on earth, to me, much more pleasurable, right? That's for me, right? Traveling, meeting new people, trying new foods. That's what it's about for me. I'm just keeping it real. Especially having done 25 years in prison. Especially having done 25 years in prison, right? And being in a box of some sort for decades, right? So I'm sure if you did time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I want to keep it raw because at the end of the day, we can't sugarcoat this. We missed a big chunk of our lives, and that means that we need to be invested. We need to get in it. Right? There's a lot of people who've never done time, still not invested. They're struggling. They're going to continue to struggle because they have a consumer mindset, a fixed, and I'm not like calling people names, but they have a fixed mindset, right? They have a short-term, instant gratification mindset. I may be speaking to you, and I'm not sure. And if so, we got to own it. We want to go from having an instant gratification mindset to a delayed gratification, right? So as I mentioned earlier, I could have instant gratification, if I was governed, so to speak, by that primarily, then I would have said, oh, I made $1,500 yesterday. I didn't work for it. Let me just spend it. As I said, I love to travel, but I delayed the gratification. So because I understand the power of compound interest, right? It's a couple of reasons, and by that I mean I know that as my money makes money, when I keep it in, it makes even more money. The more money I make, my money makes, the more it continues to make as I keep it in. Money by itself, like I said, has its place in society. But time and money is another thing. The longer your money or my money is invested, right? It's the difference between 1 year, for example, and 5 years or 20 years. The longer your money is invested and it's compounded, meaning, for example, it made $1,000 today. You didn't do anything, you kept it invested, and then the next day it went up 10%. It made more money, and then the next day, and then incrementally it grows. Where the new, each day you're starting with a brand new beginning. Right? Just think of it. Imagine life like that. You know what I'm saying? A new start. So, for example, and I'm saying this because I like numbers, so just roll with me. Be patient with me. For example, if you have $10,000, well, let me break it down. Let's say if you have $1,000. You have $1,000. You invest $1,000, and it makes, and it's invested in whatever. Let's say Apple, right? You got $1,000, and it made, let's say this past Friday, or let's say today. Let's say today it makes it earns 1%. Right? So your money's invested, you earn 1%. Now it doesn't seem like anything, but that 1% comes down to $10. You made $10. You didn't do anything. Your money earned $10. The beauty of investing is that come day 2, you'll remember you only put $1,000 in. But now you don't have just $1,000. You have $1,010. That's your new floor. And then let's say the next day, Apple does really well, and it earns 2%. So now it's not 2% of your initial $1,000. It's 2% of your new floor, your new baseline of $1,010. And then so you do the math and whatever that comes out to. Now that may not seem like anything, but just imagine that kind of trend. 1%, 2%, sometimes 0.5%, sometimes 75. But let's say it averages, that's mine usually averages about between 1 and 1.5%, right? Right? About 1.5% each day that it goes up on average, right? Because sometimes it's like I said, 50-something percent, whatever, or not 50-something percent, 0.54, let's say. Those called basis points, right? But anyway, my point is, if you have in a month, let's say 10 really good days, 10 really good stock market days, or even 8. Let's say there are 20 in a month. Let's say there are 20 days, weekdays, let's say in a month. And if you have 8 of those that are good, like really good, they, depending on what's going on in the economy, I'm oversimplifying, and obviously this is not scientific here, but then if you have 12 bad days, meaning stock market went down, right, and 8 good days, depending on the numbers, obviously, you could still come out good, right? Come out really well, because maybe what I see sometimes is that when the market, depend on the stock, depend on what's going on, right? But I'm oversimplifying, but I see sometimes one of those bad days is like a big dip, right? Like they're talking about that right now with, I believe it's Netflix, right? A big dip. What does that mean? Prices go down, people panic. A lot of people, they take their cash out. That's that instant gratification mindset. That's that fear-based mindset, right? And what people like I do, or people who have a wealth mindset, a long-term mindset, right? Delayed gratification. Like I'm not looking for gratification now. I'm looking for it in the future. I want it to be there when I'm there, right? I mean, I want my money to be working for me for the rest of my life in the way that I want it to work for me, which is to travel, which is to do good things in the world, you know. And so if you keep the money in and have, and practice delayed gratification, then the money, like I said, if you got 8 good days out of a month, that means in 12 months, I'm just oversimplifying, you got 96 good days, right? You have that, or if you don't invest at all and you just spend money, then it doesn't matter. Because your money's not working for you, you're going to continue to work for money. So we want to stop that, right? So I don't want this to be like a rant or anything like that, but my main point is that we need to beat fear. We need to beat fear, right? Be aware of it, right? Acknowledge that it's real, but it's false evidence appearing real. You can't lose money that you don't put to work, right? You can't lose it because you've already squandered it, or maybe you saved it. And if you save, you still have to work. Sorry about that. You still have to work because, meaning work longer, because it's not working for you. Saving is more about preservation, holding on to what you have. So when your money is being saved in the bank, that's all it's being, is preserved, right? It's not growing, right? It's not growing. And so keep that in mind. But when you invest, you're putting the money, let's say if it's a mutual fund or something like that, you're putting it into other businesses. You're investing. That's investing in the American dream, right? Or you can invest in other companies from all over the world. But whatever the case may be, you want to put your money to work. So anyway, I just wanted to say a little bit about that. Don't let the fear of making money or the fear of losing money stop you from making money, right? The fear of losing money stop you from making money, right? Check out the link below. This is Joe, the Wealth Architect. Check out the link below, and it's a free guide, a free chapter of one of my books, the new SSI method, right? The SSI method is a 3-part wealth building framework that is focused on having a spending plan, a saving plan, and an investing plan. Again, check out the link below. You get a copy of the first chapter for free, and let's keep this conversation going. We really need to rethink within ourselves. We really need to rethink how we think about money, how we think about investing and fear and all these things. All right, so with that said, it's your boy Joe, the Wealth Architect, and I'm live and direct from New York City. Let's get it.